Hello. Now, thank you very much for tuning into my latest vaccine video. As my office have kindly started calling this series of updates on the rollout of the Covid-19 vaccine across our community. As before, the purpose of these videos is, let's face it, we're not going to win any Emmys with this. So it's not style, it's not graphics, it's just an attempt to give you all the information we need about the rollout of the vaccine across our community. Now, my previous video was recorded last week, and in the days since, many hundreds of people across the community will have received their first dose of the vaccine, and this is fantastic news. I also was privileged enough to be invited to visit the Tonbridge Primary Care Network to see how they're doing in the Tonbridge Baptist Church. I have to say, I was hugely impressed. A fantastic and dedicated team, really delivering for all of us. I can't say thank you enough. They were completely amazing. Excuse me, as my nose itches. There we go. In fact, I am delighted that I've had so many people getting in touch to pass on their thanks to all the teams administering vaccines, that it's beginning to take up actually quite a lot of time, but I'm delighted to do it. And so please, if you have praise for the teams, do pass it on. I will make sure they get it. And I'm delighted that they know that they are being so appreciated. I haven't yet, I'm delighted to say, encountered a single person who's been critical of the operation at any of the sites. But if you do have problems, please do let me know. As I'm sure you know by now, the vaccine is being rolled out in primary care networks with the distribution hub at each, which in our community are Tonbridge Baptist Church, the Avicenna Medical Centre in Leybourne, and Sevenoaks Medical Centre for patients at Edenbridge and Borough Green surgeries. Now, I don't intend in this video to run through in detail how each site works. I'm afraid that is they'll explain that to you as you get there. As to some extent, that was also covered in my last video, and there is more information on my dedicated COVID-19 vaccine page on the website. I think you all know what it is now, but it's tomtugendhat.org/COVID-19-vaccine, and it'll go out of my newsletter. So please sign up to that and you'll have all this information. If you have any questions, please do let me know, but I'm pleased that each of these is running very well. Now, to give you a quick update, Tonbridge has had good supplies in the past few days and have really been progressing nicely throughout the rollout. Moving on to the over 70s in Morling Primary Care Network area at the Leybourne site. Progress has also been good, and they're also calling the over 70s too. Sevenoaks PCN covers a very large population of over 70s, so they're working extremely hard as well, and are working down the priority list in age order. So I think they're on over 75s at them, or about to be on over 75s, and then they'll call the over 70s and so on. But I think you all know the JCVI order now. I mentioned in my last video how there's a real need to make sure that receiving your vaccine is not a postcode lottery, and this explains why. For example, Tonbridge has received many more vaccines than Morling PCN recently. The operation at Leybourne started much earlier, but at the moment, GPs anywhere are only able to vaccinate the top 4 priority groups. So we need to make sure everyone reaches this point at roughly the same time. And as Tonbridge started much later, for the very good reasons mentioned in previous videos, that is why more deliveries have been directed here than those sites which started before Christmas. The reason I mention this is because a few people have got in touch to ask why there is no activity at one of the hubs. Put simply, this is twofold. First, we need to give our GPs a break at some point. They are working incredibly hard and they are really putting in the hours. But the second is much more relevant, I suppose, is to do with the much more immediate, is to do with the supply of the vaccine. We are still in a period where, as a nation and as a country, we have the ability to vaccinate more people than we have vaccines available. And you will have seen today that a further vaccine has been approved, which is wonderful news. This is the Novavax vaccine, and that will be rolled out later this year, but probably not for a few weeks at least. So please keep an eye on the news, because they'll probably find out before I do. There is still so much supply to come, and we are in a position where the logistics still have to deliver it, and there are only so many vaccines that can be produced at once. So if there's one message that I would like to emphasise today, if you go past either the Baptist Church in Tonbridge or Sevenoaks Medical Centre or the Medical Centre in Leybourne and don't see anything happening, It's not because we're making slow progress in any way at all. In fact, quite the opposite. It's often because we have steamed ahead of other parts of the kingdom, and we've got to keep it, we've got to make sure other parts of the UK are also up to date. There are places across Kent which have only just started vaccinating this week, and every day that passes, more and more vaccines are being produced. Now, I would much rather it was this way rather than the alternative, where we had the vaccine supply but couldn't distribute it. Clearly, that would be a much more serious issue locally. So we have absolutely got it the right way round, and you don't need to look very far afield to see places that have got different issues which are rather more problematic. So I'm very glad that the government, under the wonderful Kate Bingham, signed so many fantastic contracts early, got ahead of the curve, and made sure that we had the ability to roll out these vaccines as fast as possible. I have to say, the agility and imagination she put into that work, for which, by the way, it's worth saying she got absolutely no pay, is really pretty impressive. It's also worth pointing out that the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine is being made for no profit. So this is really a very, very impressive project of a lot of people acting selflessly, whether they are, private companies like the drugs company, financiers, bankers, you might say, like Kate Bingham, or indeed many, many, many public sector workers. This is really a team effort. So thank you very much to everybody. Now, the final aspect on the GP rollout I wanted to mention before going on to speak about the mass vaccination centres and pharmacies is, especially for anyone at Borough Green or Edenbridge surgeries in Sevenoaks PCN, I am very pleased that the transfer of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine to our local GP surgeries is continuing, so those people in both those places don't have to travel to Sevenoaks all the time. This makes a huge difference to those who would struggle to get to Sevenoaks, I know, and I've made it clear to NHS England and Sevenoaks Primary Care Network that they need much more Oxford AstraZeneca for this very reason. I'm delighted to say that one of my friends in Borough Green is going to be jabbed on Monday, and so clearly the system seems to be working. Now, pharmacies. You will have heard in the press that our pharmacies are rolling out the vaccine too, and this is very, very good news. It started locally, starting yesterday in Sevenoaks, with 6 more pharmacies being confirmed next week. I will let you know if ours are any of them in the future updates. And there you go, we've had another ping from this computer, so let me just put it on silent for a second. You can see these are really professionally produced videos. I do apologise. The other aspect of the rollout is mass vaccination centres, and these are sites which will open to help and support our local GP rollout. They will be able to deliver thousands of vaccinations each week, depending on supply. And the NHS will write to us if we live within a catchment area of one, inviting us to attend and have our vaccine there, should we be within the priority group for vaccinations at that moment. I know a few people in the county boundary and around Edenbridge previously received a letter inviting them to one at Epsom Racecourse. Now, the reason these are important is because, with the best will in the world, we cannot rely on GPs to vaccinate every single one of us. And we are 65 million in this country, and as we move down the priority groups, and as people come in for their second doses as well, there will become more and more people eligible for vaccine, and only so many that can be supplied at each of the locations we've already set up. As I mentioned earlier, supply will increase, so mass vaccination sites help ensure that we can continue with the good progress towards vaccinating us all as soon as possible. They mean that as the supply of vaccines increase, so does the ability to use the doses that we have available. Now, clearly, current supplies levels mean we don't need them just now, but they are going to be needed very soon, so we must start planning. Indeed, they are close everywhere, and the first in Kent opened in Folkestone this week. You won't be at all surprised to hear that I've been pushing for one in West Kent, which is accessible to all, and I'm delighted with the excellent help and support of Tonbridge and Malling Borough Council. We have put forward a series of sites in and around Tonbridge for this. It won't surprise you at all to hear that I'm very much hoping that we will get the approval from NHS England very soon, because Tonbridge is at the heart of the community that I am privileged to represent, but it's also at the heart of a much wider West Kent community. We know that the historic train connections mean that we are very well linked to other parts of the county, and many people from Edenbridge and Paddock Wood find it easier to get to Tonbridge than to many other county areas. It seems for me the perfect location, and during a series of meetings this point has been made absolutely clear, because it's a West Kent point, not just about us. So I hope very much that we're about to get the all clear and we're going to kick off as soon as possible. Now, I know I mentioned them just now, but I really must thank Tonbridge and Morning Borough Council. They have done a phenomenal job, and Nicholas Heslop, the leader, and his team have fully appreciated the value of Tonbridge Town Centre in delivering the mass vaccination centres. So, working with them, I hope we're about to see NHS England agree with us and say go. I will keep you informed as this develops, and I will let you know in future videos on my website and of course in newsletters. So please do sign up for the newsletter if you want to be kept informed. Once the location of the mass vaccination centre is confirmed, hopefully in West Kent, and as accessible to us as possible, we will have further details on when it will open and who will receive their vaccine there. This is going to be done by a national booking service, but in some locations, this has given us the choice as to whether we go there or to a GP or wherever. And that is going to be an individual choice depending on what is more convenient. However, I confess to looking quite far ahead here, because the main thing is to see where our nearest one will be and when it will be open. Once this is done, all of the other details will be confirmed. But I hope you'll agree with me that Tonbridge is a very good location. And as I say, I'm very much hoping the NHS England will confirm that to me very soon. That is a shorter update than usual. Still quite long, and still no prizes for technical expertise. But I hope it was useful and updated on many of the details which we've touched on in previous videos. In previous videos, I do cover areas that I haven't here. So if you haven't watched them, you can always watch them online. They're all available on my website. And my website is updated almost every day, including Saturdays and Sundays sometimes, with the latest information about the vaccine rollout locally. So please don't wait. Do have a look there. Take a look at the videos. And if you do have a question, do get in touch. I will do another video next week. But in the meantime, you know what it is. You know what I'm going to say. Hands, face, space. Please stay at home, protect the NHS and save lives. We have a lot to do together. We're doing well, but we're not at the end yet. Not even slightly. So please do be careful and look after each other. And of course, be kind. Thank you.